I'm Hayes Hartwig. This is Bamboo, Vancouver's property management and investment podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Hayes, and this is Bamboo, Vancouver's property management and investment podcast. So what this show covers is generally property management and investments, of course. And so we figured, why not have one of our landlords to come on the show? Earlier this month, we had Liam on, and he has gone the route of using professional property management. This week, we have Mel on the show, and he is a do-it-yourself landlord. And so we're just going to kind of ask Mel some questions about how that's going for him and hurdles, et cetera, and just kind of pick his brain a bit, man. So welcome to the show, Mel.
Thank you, Hayes.
Wicked. So I guess the opening one would be, what made you decide to invest in real estate? I mean, there's heaps of other things to go into, which I'm sure you're all diversified and stuff. You don't have to go through all that stuff. But I mean, why not crypto or beanie babies or something?
Well, there's something that's kind of tested over time, which is real estate. And all these other investments, they have potential to yield more, but also the potential to lose quite drastically, especially if you don't know the subject or the individual item that you're investing in.
Yeah.
Real estate, people are always going to need a place to live. And a highly coveted suburb, New Westminster, where I purchased, is near Vancouver. And Vancouver has, I think, historically low vacancy rates. And it's a highly coveted area. So I found that a fairly good investment. It's a bit of an older building, but it met all my criteria. And now it's 3 years later, and I'm quite happy with my purchase.
Nice. Well, that's good to know. Before you went and made your purchase, what were some of the fears that you needed to overcome? And I guess also importantly, how did you overcome them?
Well, fortunately, I have a brother that also has a rental property, and I have some friends that are in the real estate industry too. So I had a lot of people to consult and to talk to. And so I felt like the risk was fairly low, especially for the property that I purchased. I could see certain properties potentially having more risk than others. Mm-hmm. This building I purchased at the time was 33 years old. The price at this point was quite low. That was appealing. Also, the proximity to a lot of popular amenities was key. It's also close to my primary residence. So I felt with all those things considered, there was fairly low risk. Of course, anything can go down, but I didn't see the downside being nearly as high as the upside.
Yeah, okay. What were some of the things that you were concerned about being a downside or a possible pitfall?
Well, it's an older building. And going into it, I knew that there were certain parts of the building, the parking lot in this case, required some work and potentially some special levy. So I always took that into consideration, even when I purchased a place, knowing that there could be a $20,000 special levy coming in. And would I be comfortable with the purchase price plus the $20,000? Mm-hmm. I felt that was still a good deal for myself. So that hasn't come into play yet. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And not that I've kept quite up to date on the sale prices of units where I purchased, but I did check a few months later. I believe it was 4 months, and it appreciated a solid, probably 10%.
Yeah,
no, more than 20% actually.
Yeah, I think I sent you a couple of those comparables, and it was like looking.
It was a sharp increase in the first 4 months. So, of course, I didn't know that at the time, but I think when I purchased a place, the downside was pretty minimal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's some good things to take into account. Were you concerned about vacancy and that sort of thing? Like, was that part of your mix of what you were looking at? Were you trying to figure out who was going to rent this, or just kind of like the numbers of the actual unit itself was the price, or
both?
Okay.
Absolutely. So Yeah, having a place that I purchased for a good price is great, but if there's nobody that wants to rent it, that's kind of defeats the whole purpose of a rental property.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of websites, maybe a website. I don't remember what it is now, but I looked at that, as well as I was following some at the time Craigslist posts and seeing how quickly they were going up and then coming down.
Okay, that's
So
kind of a good.
it was showing that the turnaround was pretty good, and I actually even now I knew afterwards, because I've had a couple tenants now. My first tenant moved out, and I listed it at a price I was comfortable to rent it out at, and within 2 days I had 120 emails.
Wow.
So
maybe you're a little bit under.
I think it might be a little bit under, but I ended up getting a pretty decent candidate.
Yeah.
And that goes to show that there's definitely demand, and for what I was looking for, I think people were pretty eager to get in. So it's good to have a big pool of people to choose from, and yeah, I don't regret pricing where I put it at.
Yeah.
And the candidate or the person I chose.
So yeah, it's almost better to have multiple candidates instead of just the candidate, I guess, is the pick from the cream instead of just what's there.
Yeah, if I listed it at what I listed and got 100, and I say I increased it by even 10%, and if I only got maybe 5 candidates, when I went through, and I did go through about 100 of those emails, there were many more than 5 that I would definitely not want renting for my place. So if I only had 5, I might only have 1 or maybe even 0 people that I'd be comfortable renting out my property to, because again, this is an expensive investment, and you're trusting whoever's going to be moving in there to not ruin it for you.
Yeah, fair enough. Right?
So I definitely want a pool that's bigger than 5.
Yeah. Well, now when you said that you went through, like, you had 100 of these emails, and that you said there's like at least 5 that you're just like, hell no. What were the sort of a couple of the flags that just sort of stuck you, and you're like, nope, not that guy?
Yeah, there's a few. There's one that definitely stood out where it was this person came in, was a little bit late. That didn't bug me, but this person seemed far too eager. Too eager. This person got a little bit grabby in a try to be affectionate way, and offered more money than I was asking for by a decent amount. But I got a strange vibe. They kept on mentioning how much money they have and how they're not afraid to spend more money. Yeah. That one, of course, everybody wants more money, and it would have been great if all these alarm bells didn't go off. But I just got a bad vibe from that.
Yeah.
And this person seemed visibly sweaty and speaking very fast, so I just didn't feel comfortable with this person.
Yeah, fair enough, right?
Another person was didn't have the best body odor when he came to check out the place. That was a bad sign. Those two stand out.
Yeah.
There's several that I think you were referring to. Another thing I was purposely not looking for were students.
Yeah.
I wanted somebody to be in around potentially longer, somebody with a stable work situation.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that's usually not a student.
Yeah.
And without playing stereotypes, they tend to be a little bit younger and maybe less responsible at that point. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them are young adults. So for me, when you have a large pool of people, you can start applying these filters and removing, certain things you don't want in a tenant.
I gotcha. That makes sense. So I guess with that, would you have any advice for anybody who's starting to go down this road? What would be like your first couple of steps that you'd suggest? Do you look at probably your financials first, I'd suggest, but like, is there any other major steps, equipment or software or anything that you use? Somebody just starting out, what would you suggest for them to?
Yeah, first piece is the financials. That's usually the first thing that's gating for somebody that's looking to buy a place. assuming financials are okay, and making sure that they have good credit score, that you can get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Ensure you have steady employment, because once you have that mortgage, you have an obligation, and if you don't have steady employment, that could be problematic. So if you have a temporary job, what's the confidence to get a full-time job or a continuing working after that? So if everything is good financially, I take a look at demand, like which areas are higher in demand than others, and key things for me when I was looking for a place are the neighborhood, like safety and security. Is it a good neighborhood? Is it mostly young families there, kids, or is it more of an urban area with working professionals?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a commercial area? Is it a residential area? Is it an industrial area? I looked at things like accessibility, like access to the highway, access to rapid transit,
okay,
bus stations. That'll appeal to more people. I took a look at pet rentals. A lot of people have pets,
mm-hmm.
and you can often ask for a little more money in rent and having more candidates by having a pet allowable building.
Yeah.
And those are a few things. I mean, there's other factors that I took into consideration as well. Age of the building. I do feel, of course, you're going to be paying usually less for older buildings,
mm-hmm.
but you also inherit more risk. So looking through
things breaking, right?
Things breaking. So looking through the stratas, meeting minutes, and this is the case for an apartment. Looking through their depreciation report, find out if there's any pending special levies coming in, because you don't want to inherit a lemon or buy a lemon and then have to put more money in later on if you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
And assuming everything I just said there is a check, then I think that's a good potential option.
Yeah.
And yeah, the demand. So if you see a lot of, if you scour like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and you see a lot of posts want to rent from people, then just shows that there's a shortage there, and you have something that's coveted.
Okay, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Now you had talked about touched on the financials a little bit. Do you have any advice for somebody who's trying to put together a down payment? Because obviously rents are high. I mean, it's tough for a lot of people. They can afford to pay the $3,000 a month mortgage, but they're sending it all to rent right now. So do you have any tips for anybody who's trying to maybe squirrel away that a little bit, or any thoughts on that?
It's tough. It's tough to save up for a good down payment. And assuming this person is not making a boatload of money and looking to purchase above their means. Yeah. It's still a little bit difficult. And like I touched on before, if they have temporary work, they have to be very careful that they can get a mortgage. Once they get a mortgage, they can sustain those payments. And sometimes, even if they can do the bare minimum and they are approved for a large amount, maybe it's not the best idea to spend and buy something at the ceiling of what you're allowed. Because then living month by month, if you say you're paying your mortgage maybe bi-weekly or monthly, it's tough on your paycheck. If it's eating a big portion of your paycheck every month, yeah, then maybe look for something a little bit lower in the range of purchasing. I think that's important. For me, I personally went for a fixed rate. I like having the certainty of the term. I think those are key things. Trying to think of other things that would allow people to save money, but I think ultimately it's still a worthwhile investment, because even if you're paying a mortgage, you have an obligation. It's better than paying rent and paying somebody else's mortgage. Yeah, and essentially burning money. Some
sound advice on that one. I fully concur. Bias aside, of course, being a realtor, but I fully agree with you that like anybody who is renting, they don't usually get paid when they leave.
Yeah. Yeah, they got no refund back.
Yeah, right. So, absolutely agree. So, Now, you've gone down the route of managing your own place, and obviously you've been, gone through a couple tenants, fairly successful on that. What would be some things to consider if you're going to go down that route, other than the cost, of course, of property management, which I'm sure was a part of a factor? But what were some other things to consider, whether you should do it yourself or if somebody should get a professional? Are there any in particular, whether it be emotional traits or financial traits or just whatever, things to take into consideration?
Yeah, there's a few things to consider. For me, going in, I always thought I'd be just property managing it. And essentially, if you already own a place and you can take care of it, just consider doing the same thing for the other place. Of course, you're not going to maybe, if you're doing a fully furnished situation, mine wasn't. But if you are, obviously you wouldn't spend the same amount as your primary place. But it did, for me in my situation personally, my place is only 5 minutes from my primary residence. Mm-hmm. So in the case of an emergency, it would not be a hassle to get to.
Yeah.
If this was like a 5-hour drive, that might be a very different story. I'd definitely hire a property manager because I don't want to drive 5 hours to change a light bulb. Well, I'm exaggerating my intent, so you call that, but to handle any kind of issues that come up. So for me, the convenience, I have a bit of flexibility. So for me, that made sense. I'm sure, property managers, it's great to be able to take advantage of their knowledge, their expertise, and have that off your plate. For me, at least so far, it's worked out self-managing my property.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people can manage it themselves. Absolutely. But there's certain people who are just not cut out for it. And the one that in particular sticks, because I've done some placement only for people where we just basically place the tenant for the owner and then they manage it themselves. And it's just funny from doing some of the placement onlys, and one set in particular, I could tell that the guy was really hot-headed. Would be able to get angry at somebody real fast. And I'm like, wow. So this is your home. You saved up the down payment. You bought this place. You maybe put the paint on the wall. In this case, this guy actually moved from the unit to his new one. He's renting his old one. So he's got memories, emotional attachment, all this stuff, right? So I just I was looking at this. I'm like, this guy is probably going to have trouble later because, the tenant's going to accidentally break something or whatever it may
or
be.
Change something.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I could just see this guy, boom, losing his mind. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can foresee this being a serious problem. Same with another one that we actually let go because he wanted to put in rules that were unenforceable. He wanted to have a rule that you could not smoke within 75 meters of the property. Think about how far that is. It's almost a football field.
That's almost out of your property. I mean, even if you live in a strata or condo, you're no longer on your own property.
Oh yeah, you're almost a block away.
Essentially saying, get off the entire property, smoke in public.
Yeah,
some public space.
Yeah, it's pretty. You could say no smoking on the property, sure, but how are you going to enforce off your property line?
Obviously, he's hoping they bite and they will agree to it, but of course, it's unenforceable, and I think it's pretty unreasonable.
Of course, and that's just what I mean. If you're adding in unreasonable terms, there's probably a good likelihood that there's going to be some conflict on that.
Yeah, and it's not just that. You have somebody coming in making arbitrary rules. And what is the motivation for this person? Why is this person making these arbitrary rules?
Right.
This person sounds like of course, they're trying to micromanage things that are not in their control and also not within their right, even.
Yeah.
So, if there's people like that, then maybe they're not suited for managing their own properties.
Exactly, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's sort of certain things that good and good on. You're obviously I've known you for quite a few years, so you're organized and Yeah, I knew when you're like, I'm going to manage it, like, that makes sense. Like, I knew you could handle that. You're not going to start flying off the handle with crazy ass rules and stuff, right? So, but yeah, as I say, it's just interesting to see there's certain people you can tell, and like, this probably isn't going to end well.
Yeah, I agree.
So, since you've been managing your own place and that, what have some of the hurdles that you've overcome or sort of missteps that you're like, oh, learned from that, I'm going to not do that next time? The reason why I'm asking is because we have a fair amount of do-it-yourself landlords that listen as well. So maybe they'll pick up some extra tips. They're like, oh, I'm doing that right now. Maybe I should not do that or fix that or whatever, right?
Yeah, everything I've done to fix my place has been pretty simple. I haven't had to do any major things. I've painted the walls. I've recaulked the bathtub and sink. I attached what do you call it? Something to secure the hot water tank, because my unit has its own hot water tank.
Yeah.
And in the case of an earthquake, that would topple over and cause some major problems.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like an earthquake kind of restraint that you can mount onto the walls and attach that around the hot water tank that would prevent it from falling over. I added that.
Now, you had a problem, somebody flooded into your unit, right?
That's right, yes.
That came from their hot water tank. Did it fall over, or what caused this?
That was, I'm not sure what kind of what the cause was, but it was from the unit above.
Yeah.
And it started spraying water against the wall, which ended up dripping into my unit downstairs. And it, that was a bit of a headache. Unfortunately, it got taken care of pretty quickly. It was stopped by the people upstairs before it got too out of control. Mm-hmm. But that was my first case where I've had to ever deal with insurance. And it was, now I know the process, but it wasn't very convenient or easy, and it was very stressful.
It's a little bit daunting, I guess, eh?
It's daunting because it's a lot of money, doing a minor renovation like that, and not being sure if the insurance is going to cover it. Mm-hmm. And what the order of operations is, like who do you contact, when do you contact them, and so forth. So that was not the best experience, but in an old building like this, it's actually not too surprising. So once the good thing is it was covered by insurance, and that's one thing that you should always have is home insurance. So I know that it wasn't part of the question, but definitely get home insurance.
Of course, yeah. No, any tips for do-it-yourself landlords?
Yeah, you don't want to be out of the pocket for $5,000, $10,000, or whatever it happens to be. So for me, my deductible was only $1,000, so it's much more reasonable. And as bad as it is, I can stomach that.
Yeah.
I also, not that it was our cause, but there's this like a moisture detector that you can put near potential water sources. Mm-hmm. So we put one near the hot water tank. It makes an alarm. So if there happens to be like a slight leak, even a little bit, that starts to go. It'll make a loud enough noise that if you're in a bedroom, a living room, or a different room, you should be able to hear it.
Yeah.
So that way you'd be able to stop things before it gets bad. So
yeah, especially with the hot water tanks. I mean, because it's not like they just burst like a balloon, right? So like,
yeah, usually it starts with a little bit
dripping, and then now like, okay, chop chop.
Exactly. Yeah, even a little leak, yes, is a big problem, because it turns into a big problem.
Now, with the flood that had happened, did you have to make up anything with your tenants? Did you have to lower the rent? Did they have to leave, stay? Did anything? How do you sort of smooth things out with the tenants? Because I'm sure they're kind of upset that their wall is melting.
Yeah, that's a difficult one that I'm still kind of struggling with a little bit. Is there wasn't really much damage to her personal belongings. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have her own insurance. Certain things can be covered by like the landlord's insurance, but you go through this process. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't cover her stuff. But say, for example, some of my stuff, or even the deductible. I think the process is called subjugation. Mm-hmm. And they can sometimes try to recoup money from the offending person or a landlord or a unit.
Okay.
My experience wasn't incredibly positive because they weren't able to recoup my deductible, unfortunately. So I wouldn't rely on that process, but that process does exist where they try to go to the offending person's insurance and try to claim something back.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We're planning to have an insurance broker come on the show in a few more weeks. So that'll be interesting. We'll be delving right into all that insurance.
I could probably use some of that info too.
Well, make sure that you like and follow us, brother.
Yes.
So I guess there have been some rule changes that have been sort of put out both by the federal and the provincial government. We won't go through them all because that's like an entire show in itself. But one of the ones that was one of the ones that was proposed was to have the tenant's rent payment go and apply to their credit scores. What are your thoughts on this? Like, yay, nay, good, bad?
I think, well, I don't know much about this, and I haven't really maybe kept up to some of the really new rules. Mm-hmm. But at first glance, as a landlord, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it kind of holds them accountable, because if they are late or don't pay rent for, I'm sure if you had a tenant that missed out in 1 month and communicates to you, I'm sure you wouldn't hate, you wouldn't be too upset. But, if there's somebody that is blatantly not paying their rent repeatedly or late, mm-hmm. if that somehow impacts their credit score, that might be the impetus for them to actually, pay on time or
keep everyone on side, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
And I think there has to be accountability for both sides. Yeah, as a landlord, we have to be accountable, and tenants have to be accountable. And for them, they're asked for two things: don't destroy the place and pay the rent.
Yep. I mean, those are two pretty reasonable requests.
Yeah.
I think also that it would be a benefit for the tenants as well, because it's strange that it's not recorded. Like this way, if they're a good tenant that's paying on time and they're paying, like as we said, the $3,000 that would be a mortgage otherwise, it should help them. That way when they do finally save up that down payment or go to buy that home, they can show that they've had good credit. I've done my thing, right?
Yep,
so
yep.
I think I like the idea personally, and just as you mentioned, I think it adds a little bit more teeth to, if you're going to be messing around, it'll actually hurt.
That's actually a really good perspective, because unfortunately I don't sometimes think from the perspective of the tenant every time. But this will benefit the good tenants out there, and that'll help build their credit score that they can use for, well, let's be honest, for almost anything.
Yeah,
borrowing money to do whatever.
Having good credit score.
Whether to buy an apartment or a house of their own, or to buy a car or something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So one of the other ones that has come up is there's talk of extending the notice to be given by the landlord to move back into their home. Currently, it's at 2 months. They haven't really determined how much it'll go. Arbitrarily, let's say it's 4, because that's the biggest notice that has to be given for demolition. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's fine at 2? Should it be shorter? Longer? Does it matter?
Not something I've really thought about, because it's probably not applicable to my situation, at least not right now.
Yeah.
If it's 2 months right now, I think 2 months is probably fair.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they need to use their unit for valid reasons, then they probably can't wait 4 months. They can't wait 8 months or however long. 2 months sounds like a decent amount, because you have to give maybe some notice to the tenant that's currently occupying it, but you also need that place too. So I think 2 months should be fair.
Yeah. That's what it currently is at right now. It seems to have been working. It was just sort of a surprise that they had brought up extending it, because it's sort of like
why try to solve a problem that doesn't exist?
Yeah, like what? Why? The only thing that I can think about is maybe trying to give a tenant longer to find a place, because as you mentioned, vacancy rate's pretty low. It's tricky to find a place sometimes.
Guarantee that's I mean, I don't know the whole story behind it, but there's a very good chance that's the reason why.
Yeah. I mean, and that does make sense, but sort of torn on it, because, I do see it from the landlord side as well, simply for the fact that if you have to move back into your investment property, which you have to stay there now for a year, so it's not like you're just displacing tenants, probably something has happened.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you're moving into what was making you extra passive income.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's that's I'm sort of I flip flop back and forth.
Well, you can see things from both lenses, and it's good that you can see things from both perspectives. I can see an argument for both sides. With that said, 2 months, that seems okay. Like, I don't know whether they say how many months are they going to increase that to?
They haven't said yet. They just sort of said it will get longer.
If they say, if they are
typical government stuff,
it better be like 3 months. Like, they better not jump to 6 months or a year, because usually the person's probably in a desperate need for their own property.
Yeah, it makes sense. So now, and sort of one of the other bigger points that they had brought up from, I believe it was the federal, if I remember correctly, but they were talking about tracking the rental prices for transparency to help with negotiations. So this is what they proposed here. Do you think that will help? Do you think that makes any difference whatsoever? If somebody said that, you were renting it for $500 less 2 years ago, would you care?
No, I think that's irrelevant. I think whatever you rented out for before doesn't apply to the current situation. And if somebody comes in and say I rented out for $2,000 a month, and somebody says, well, your previous place, or previously you rented it out for $1,500 a month, you should give me $1,500 a month or $1,600 a month, I will probably tell that person no. That's it. Like, I wouldn't be mad. I'll just say no.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's interesting, because they brought up about the transparency and showing what the rental prices are and all that stuff. But I look at it as application to the sales side. And when I'm carrying, out looking for homes for our potential investors and first time buyers and stuff like this, all the prices are out there already. It's not like they're going, oh, well, this is the price, so now I should charge cheaper. I don't want to make that extra $1 million now.
Exactly. And also, if I'm looking to buy a place, yeah, sure, okay, it'd be convenient to have a history of what they rented it out for. But if they didn't disclose that, or you think they're lying, it doesn't really matter. It's if you find out that in their area that they're charging a certain amount, whether it's down the street or nearby, you'll probably be able to get something very similar to it, especially if you compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
I think this is more of a I don't say make work, but yeah, you'll give somebody a job to develop a system that tracks this, and for what benefit? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that especially with how I'm sure you've seen insurance rates have gone up and mortgages. You're on a fix, so it hasn't really affected you that much. But anyone on a variable, such as myself, it definitely has taken a bit of a toll. As is, we're hoping that it goes down in June. But but yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that sort of it keeps on moving the rental prices up, because everything has gone up in price. It's just the way it is. So it's unfortunate, but we'll see how this goes. I don't know if this tracking of prices is going to do much other than just really annoy people. Maybe it'll pull back the covers and be like, well, it's going up because of this, and this.
Maybe. But for the people, whether it's federally or provincially, I'd like to hear what their rationale is on why they're implementing this.
Yeah.
There has to be some main driver that I think we're failing to see, because it can't just be just for transparency's sake. Like, there has to be some tangible benefit, or this is an exercise that's nobody will care about. Yeah.
They sort of presented it with saying that it would help with negotiations on rent, but as you just
there's no negotiation.
Say no.
Yeah, there's no negotiation. It's simply no. Yeah.
Wicked, man. Well, thank you very much for taking the time and answering all our questions. Letting us pick your brain there. Is there anything burning that you need to get out into the world, in the world of cyberspace and podcasts?
Not really. I think you asked a lot of good questions. I still think, purchasing a place for a rental and then managing it yourself, it's a worthwhile thing to do, especially if it's within the means of the individual. I don't see why not. Better than paying a landlord. So, think of it as like a lifelong thing. This is something that you're going to have and you're going to benefit maybe down the road. Maybe you'll have a family at some point, and then you could, sell it and upgrade to something else. But if you're renting something when you're in your 20s and you had the chance to buy something, well, maybe 30s now, things are expensive.
Yeah.
But so you had the chance and you don't, and you want to upgrade later on, you have nothing. You've burned that money. So I think if that option's available, it should be strongly considered.
Yeah, fair enough. And thank you very much. If you guys have been listening this long, we really appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe to us so that you're up to date with everything going on in the property management and investment world. My name is Hayes Hartwig. This has been Bamboo, Vancouver's property management and investment podcast.